Stay tuned for today's Cook and Crave show. We got an easy pasta recipe and some delicious breadsticks. Hi, I'm Rhonda Ferrer.
And I'm Laverne.
And on today's Cook and Crave, we got some awesome pasta with shrimp and some easy breadsticks.
Yep, that's right.
All right, well, let's get started.
Okay. First of all, I've got the water boiling for the spaghetti, for the pasta. So we're going to go over there and we're going to start with that. It asks for about 6 ounces of spaghetti, so I'm going to just take a little handful out of here. And I will go ahead and break them in half. And I think we need just a few more here. And you don't have to measure exactly. It says about 6 ounces, so let's just get that going here. And then while that's boiling, we're going to start with our easy breadsticks. Get that going because we want to get that into the oven. And the spaghetti says to cook about 10 minutes to have it on a firm, not too soft, because we don't want it too soft because we're going to add some the shrimp and some vegetables that will go in with it. So I'll just set the timer for, in fact, I'm just going to go 9 minutes because we don't want this pasta too mushy. We want it firm. So.
Okay. Do you add salt at all to the water?
I added a little bit of salt because that will, give a spaghetti a little bit more flavor, and it helps it not to stick as much. So.
Okay.
But we don't add oil or anything with that. Sometimes when I just make spaghetti, I'll add oil too, but we won't with this. Now with our quick and easy breadstick recipe, I put a stick of butter in here, and I'm going to just put that in the oven, and we're going to get this melted, and because our bread actually goes on top of the butter.
Oh, okay.
So we'll just put that in there. Get that going, but we don't want to forget it. We don't want to burn the butter.
Okay.
And now we're going to start with 3 cups flour, and we're going to add a teaspoon of salt.
Any special flour, or is it just the all-purpose flour?
I just got the all-purpose flour here.
Okay.
And a tablespoon of baking powder. And a teaspoon of garlic powder. Now this isn't the salt because we already put the regular salt in there.
Okay.
And this is something that is optional. It's a tablespoon of chopped parsley. This is fresh parsley, and it will give a little bit of a flavor, not much, but it just kind of gives it a little bit more gourmet look, with the parsley in it.
Definitely.
And then we add a cup of milk. And we'll just get that blended there.
Now, if you didn't want to have like a garlic, that garlic powder that you put in there, if you omitted that and you just wanted more of a plain breadstick, is that something you think you could do? Use it with different dishes that you may not want a garlic flavor to?
Absolutely. If you don't like garlic as much, I would just eliminate or maybe even put half of that in. Okay. But breadsticks always seems like when you say breadsticks, garlic is something that just goes with it. Okay. So I started mixing with this wire whisk. I probably shouldn't have. As soon as I had the milk in there, I should have transferred to my wooden spoon. So I just got to get this cleaned out a little bit here. Okay, well, I'm using my wooden spoon and mixing that up here. And you get to know the feel of your dough. And I'm going to say I just need just a touch more milk, about another tablespoon of milk. Okay. And if you find that when you add your milk, and you might find that maybe that cup was too much, you dust it with a little flour, and you'll be just fine. You add however you feel that consistency should be, just to make it stick together. Okay. So we just want to knead that here together. But I'll bet our margarines or our butter is probably melted. So we want to get that out of the oven so it doesn't burn. Yeah. It is hot. So we're going to just set that here. And it might be just a little hotter than it was necessary, but that's fine. It's just melted. And that, so I'm going to transfer this dough onto my pastry sheet here.
Okay.
And I'm going to just knead that a little bit. And I really like using a pastry sheet because this way, when you have it measured out to, rolled out to the size you want it, you can just flip it over into your, your pan, or if you're making pie or whatever, you don't have to try and pick it up and, have it fall apart.
Okay.
So just going to knead that just a little bit here just to get that well mixed. And like I said, you can see the parsley in there, that it just gives it a little bit of color.
It does. And then when it's baked, it's going to look very nice as well.
Right. It just, like I said, it gives it a gourmet look. So your dough is going to be fairly stiff.
Is it you just, when you added a little bit more milk, you felt it because you've worked with dough quite a bit, but does it still have to be sticky, or do you add a little bit more flour if it gets sticky?
Well, if it's too sticky, yeah, just dust it with a little bit of flour.
Okay.
And I'm going to just dust a little bit of flour on the cookie sheet when I roll this out, or on my pastry sheet. And just dust it a little bit there. And what we want it about the 9 by 13.
Okay.
And it is a pretty stiff dough. It takes a little bit to roll.
Now, can you overwork dough when you're doing something like this?
No, but it isn't necessary to really work it a lot like a yeast dough.
Okay.
A yeast dough, the longer you work it, the better it is. And when I'm making breads or that, I like to knead it for at least 15 minutes.
Okay.
This, it's just enough time just to get it mixed thoroughly. And being this is just a baking powder recipe, you don't have to wait to let it rise or anything like that.
Well, it's nice. It's quick and easy. You don't have to worry about or be an expert at yeast and
that's right.
How to make dough products.
And when they say it's a quick and easy breadstick recipe, that's right, it is. So I'm going to just take that and I'm going to just transfer that into my pan there. Just roll that up there. Okay. So we're going to just even that out in there. I'm going to scrape that little bit off there. And then we're going to use, I hear the buzzer for our pasta. So let's just check that. Yeah, that looks about right. So now what we're going to do, what makes it nice, you're just going to use the kettle. We're going to add a cup of peas, and you can use fresh or frozen peas. So okay. I have a cup there. And I just cut a red bell pepper just into some pieces there. So I got that. And then it asked for a bunch of asparagus. Okay. So when I went to the store to buy asparagus, a bunch equaled about a pound.
Okay.
And if you don't maybe like that much, you don't necessarily have to use it all in there. But we're going to add that in there.
Okay.
There. And then it asks for like about a pound of shrimp. So we're going to add that in there too. So now what this has to do is just going to come to a boil, and maybe about 2 to 4 minutes. That's okay. All it's going to take. You don't want to cook, anything real mushy. You want to just keep your vegetables a little bit crisp, and your shrimp just to get that heated or whatever.
Okay.
It says to use raw shrimp, or you can actually use, and I did use some fresh. They're actually cooked shrimp. It's going to go quickly, and it works well both ways.
Great.
So let's go back over here and finish our easy breadsticks. I'm going to just kind of spread that out just a little bit more. And then I'm going to use actually a pizza cutter to cut, some strips. And
so you cut them before you cook them?
Right. And you know, the butter's going to come in between the, you know, your strips, which kind of helps, gives it the texture and also kind of separates it a little bit.
Sure.
So when you're baking. And I've got this plastic pizza cutter. Works really nice. You don't have to worry about cutting your pan. And what you can do too, you know, if you're a fan of like garlic or garlic powder, or even like Parmesan cheese, you know, okay. I would just take some of that butter and just kind of spread it over the top. Just take a pastry brush and brush that, and then sprinkle a little bit more butter. Kosher salt, you know, your little thicker, heavier salt,
right,
would make it look really nice too. So we're going to just cut those in half. And the recipe says that you can actually put, just sprinkle like a tablespoon of salt in there before you put that on, and then also even some additional garlic if you really like it garlicky, you know, a lot of garlic flavor.
Okay.
But I didn't do that, you know, I used butter, and butter's got, you know, it's salted, so we don't want to overdo the salt. So I'm just going to kind of spread them out a little bit here. There, see? Now we're going to just put them in the oven, and they bake about 20 minutes at 425.
Okay.
So we'll put that back in there. And I'll set the timer. Okay, and that's going to just take a little bit for it to come to a full boil there. So let's just give that a few moments here. And then while that is doing that, we're going to go over here, and the next step with our pasta is we're going to mash, I got 3 cloves of garlic, okay, and I chopped them already, but now we're going to just put them in this big bowl, and then a teaspoon of kosher salt. Okay. And we're going to kind of, I'm going to just take my little masher, and we're going to just mash that together to make it kind of like a little bit of a paste in there.
And this is going to be for the pasta dish itself?
Yes.
Okay.
This is where the pasta is going to go in.
So fresh garlic.
Yes. So, you know, it says garlic, it's a garlic pasta, and that, so it's, and again, if you're not that fond of garlic, just go ahead and eliminate a little bit. You don't have to put the full amount in, or it's really a good recipe you're watching calories, because with this creamy pasta salad, instead of using like cream or sour cream, it asks for plain yogurt. Oh. And so that's healthy. In fact, the recipe, it says it makes 4 to 5 servings, and with approximately about 385 calories per serving. That's pretty
not bad.
That's good.
Not for a main dish.
No, and not when you're thinking of a creamy pasta salad, you're thinking more of Alfredo that's got a lot of calories.
It does.
But it's good.
Well, it always is.
Okay, so we get that mashed up in here. And then we're going to add 1.5 cups of plain yogurt, which I already did pre-measure there.
Okay.
And that salt, the kosher salt being a little more coarser, it helps that garlic just to mash up a little bit more. So we're going to just take that out. Okay, and so then like I said, I just got 1.5 cups of plain yogurt.
It's surprising how many recipes you can find that just ask for yogurt, though.
And it's so much healthier in that we can eliminate some of that cholesterol. Okay, now it asks for, we put the yogurt in there, it asks for 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. And I just used the lemon juice from a bottle. But
okay.
if you would happen to have fresh lemon juice, that'd be great. And then it asks for a tablespoon of virgin olive oil.
Okay.
So I got that. And I would use the olive oil because that definitely does give a little bit different flavor than your regular cooking oil.
It definitely does.
Yeah. And now I have a half a teaspoon of, of black pepper. And it says to use fresh ground pepper. I didn't have that, so your regular pepper is going to be just fine. So we're going to just blend that up here. Mix that together. And you want to do it in a pretty big bowl because when you drain your pasta and your vegetables, and then you can just put it in here and you already got it into one bowl. You don't need to make an extra bowl dirty. So just mix that up well.
Okay. It smells really good.
And it takes about, maybe about 30 to 45 minutes to make it. I mean, when you're starting with cutting your vegetables and that. So it's not a dish that's going to take you a long time. So if you're coming home from work and, maybe it's a little bit later, but you want a good hearty meal, you have time to make this because it's not going to take that long. Okay.
And you can always pre-cut your vegetables the night before.
That's correct. So let's just go back over here and just check that, and let's give that a little bit longer here. I'm going to just check the shrimp there. Our pasta is firm, which we want, which is good. So let's just get another minute or so here. Okay, that has come to a boil, and that looks like that is ready to be drained. So we'll take that over to the sink, and we're going to drain it well. And then all we have to do is pour that into our big bowl there with our yogurt and that. So we'll just get this drained.
This actually makes a very big serving. I mean, it's a big serving dish.
It is. And I think, too, you can add a few more vegetables or even a little bit more spaghetti if you would like. And add just maybe a little bit more yogurt to it to make it a little bit bigger recipe. Say if you wanted to serve, maybe a few more than, it says 4 to 5 people. So,
okay.
So we're going to just let that drain just a little bit here. You want to get that drained well so that when we put it into the yogurt, our mixture there, we don't have excess moisture. And it's going to take about maybe about 10 more minutes to feature our breadsticks. But before we know it, the bell will be ringing for that. So.
Okay.
But can you just see that? Doesn't that look appetizing?
It does. It smells good. You can smell that asparagus.
Right. And I can smell the shrimp too. So if you're a shrimp lover, that will work out just really, really well. So I think that is drained pretty well. So we're just going to put that in here.
Would you be able to use different noodles too if you wanted to use like a bow tie pasta or even like a fettuccine noodle type?
I would do, I in fact I was looking at what noodles, spaghetti I had, and I actually had a package of fettuccine noodles, and I thought that would have been interesting too to do that.
Sure.
So just see, look at that.
You got great.
Plenty of sauce there, and with the yogurt, because the lemon juice is giving its flavor, and all of that. So I think you're going to have. It'll be very flavorful. Put it that way.
It will be, and when you smell it, the first thing I don't smell is garlic, though, so it's not overpowering garlic by any means.
I don't think it is, but we do like garlic, and it looked like I had quite a lot of vegetables, but when you put that in there, it's really not.
Yep.
And with the red peppers, the peas, the asparagus, and even the shrimp, it gives it a nice, pleasant look.
It does.
Okay, we got that already mixed, and let's go away. We hear the buzzer for our breadsticks.
Okay.
So we'll just come on over here. take them out, and oh, they look great.
They do.
Now, with some of that butter that's in there, I'm going to just baste the breadsticks. And like I said, then this would be a great time now to add your Parmesan cheese if you wanted to, or just maybe a little bit more garlic.
Okay.
Anything that you know your family would like. That's, like I said, we'll just baste that with the rest of that butter. Okay. And like I said, with that parsley in there, like I said, it just makes it a nice, you know, more of a gourmet look. And it just gives it a nice crisp, you know, bottom to it, baking on that butter there. And like I said, we cut that before, and with the butter in between, look at how nicely they pull apart.
Yep, they're not sticking together. They look great.
So, okay, let's do that. And now let's just feature a little bit of our garlic pasta salad on that.
All right, sit down for a nice romantic supper with your significant other and have a glass of wine, and this is a perfect meal.
Wouldn't that be? And this is optional. It says you can garnish it with some pine nuts.
Okay.
And they're toasted pine nuts. When I purchased the pine nuts, they're not toasted. And to toast them, it's very simple. You put them into a dry Teflon pan, 2 to 4 minutes, just, you know, with the burner on about medium, and just gently stirring it, and they come out toasted very nicely. It's just going to add a little bit of, you know, nutty flavor to that. And you don't mix it in with the salad. You're going to just put that, garnish it on top, and we'll just add a little bit of parsley on top, and a little sprig just to decorate there. And now, how does that look?
Looks wonderful.
Good.
Can't wait to try this dish.
Okay.
And again, to get this garlic pasta recipe and the garlic breadsticks, go to Consolidated's website, www.ctctel.com. And please submit your recipes for us to cook for you on Cooking Crave. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsor, The Workshop. Thank you so much and have a great day.